Hello and welcome to this Zenith sales training video. This case study is on the Talacris Biotherapeutics, more recently renamed to Grifols, process simulation case study. This case study is over 3 years and will give you a great insight into the solution offered, the solution built, and the customer relationship that occurred along the way. I hope it'll give you great insights into the Zenith sales process and give you some of the tools and insights you'll need. I also plan to cover some of the pitfalls that you need to be careful of when offering such a solution to new customers. Let's start by looking at a document or a file set. There's a number of files here I'm going to go through in order. I suggest that after this video you go through these at your own pace for any that you are interested in. But for the purpose of this video, to keep it short, I'm going to show you each one briefly, identify the key parts, and then move on quite quickly. The first one is the proposal. The proposal document was put together by quite a number of people internally in Zenith, and at that time the company was called Talacris, so if you see it, the name change, you'll understand why, for operator training and record management. This proposal covered a consultancy phase, development phase, and delivery phase for not 1 but 3 years. The consultancy phase was developed in such a way that there would be workshops and interviews, identify the training requirements, devise a delivery schedule, estimate a cost, and agree an execution strategy. You'll notice here that in the consultancy phase, we talk to the customer about what is it that a process operator needs to be competent in, and then had a wider discussion about those competencies, and then narrowed the discussion down to the Delta V technology and how Zenith could assist with that particular aspect of competency. In the consultancy phase, we looked at everything from process descriptions, existing code and graphics, any related SOPs, and the trainee list, through a kickoff meeting with I think it was 3 days of interactive workshops, where at the end we were able to figure out what particular strategy would suit best for the customer. What was generated out of that, I'll show you briefly, was a spreadsheet showing the particular unit and the recipes that could best be shown in the process simulation. We identified 3 different recipes, different levels of complexity, and then for the actual e-learning lesson, how that was broken out by recipe and level. Going back to the proposal, there was a requirement from the customer that it would be a securely hosted by Zenith, securely hosted learning management system by Zenith. The cost of that initial consultancy was $14,800, and for year 1, the cost including consultancy was $115. In year 2, with the assumption that an additional area would be added, or recipe, $65K, and in year 3, with no additional plant areas, simply to sustain all of the licensing and infrastructure, was $53,000. Moving on to some of the other requirements by the customer, they required a computer use survey so that the individuals themselves could be assessed for their competence on using a computer to see if the training would be, if they would be suitable for the training. There was also a Delta V e-assessment, which was like a pre-assessment for using the more advanced process simulation e-learning. This was basically 50 assessment questions that came from the introductory e-learning, and if the individuals could show their competence on this, then they were considered suitable for the more advanced e-learning. There was also an evaluation form put together to assess the e-learning solution offered by Zenith and the improvement, having taken, the best way of putting it is, the individual was asked to assess their own improvement in understanding, having gone through the process. For Talakris, this was quite a success because it meant that the group of users, which was just under 30, could be given the access to their site code and graphics, take these lessons as often as they needed to get competent in solving the simulation problems. The average score is 100% in each occasion because these individuals took the course a number of times. You'll see there the number of times run is higher than the number of users, so the user who failed would have retaken that until they got the full understanding of how to solve the problem. In year 2, more scenarios were identified. Again, another on-site visit, I think 2 days this occasion in person on site to identify the recipes and problems. And that part of the handover from Zenith were some very good documents that showed exactly how to access the system using Citrix, how to log into the learning management system, how to access the course, how to access the lesson, and finally how to launch then the Delta V Citrix window to take the particular course they needed to, or lesson they needed to, run a particular procedure, and carry out their training. Finally, there was an administrator guide that helped the individual who was administering all of these personnel in order how to access that system as a sub-administrator in terms of the reports that were possible to generate relating to their users, how to add a user, and communicate with users. Finally, quite a number of people were involved in this project over the 3 years, as listed in this spreadsheet. The customer feedback, as shown here on the screen, shows some of the comments that came back following both year 1 and year 2 of the process solution offered by Zenith. Finally, some of the pitfalls to avoid when offering the solution include being very careful not to overcommit to the customer, in the sense that for the solution that connects to an actual Delta V system, a training system, you can only have as many concurrent users as you have Delta V units that are simulated. A second factor that will be important to watch out for is the number of recipes and lessons that are committed to building at the outset. That has to be costed quite carefully and make sure that there are enough engineering hours to cover that development. If the customer is open to the software being simulated maybe in a technology like Flash instead of connecting to the copy of the plant software, that could also be a strong option, and please contact the ZT Learning department for the latest on that particular approach. For now, I hope this video has been helpful. Feel free to look at these documents at your leisure, and thanks for your attention.